Well, this one traumatized me. Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today we are talking about Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. So if you're not familiar with Ashley Winstead, she's one of my all-time favorite authors. She wrote In My Dreams I Hold a Knife and The Last Housewife, and also two romance novels that I have not read, but I should because I love her other stuff so much. I was super excited for this release. I just couldn't wait to chat to you about it, couldn't wait to read it, and it did not disappoint. I mean, it was definitely a lot, but I wouldn't call it a disappointment for sure. So let's chat about it. Firstly, let me tell you what Midnight is the Darkest Hour is about. We are in this small town, I think in Louisiana, like near swamplands. We're in this small town that is run by the reverends. Everyone's extremely religious. There's an iron fist which the church is running the city with. And we follow Ruth, who is the daughter of the pastor. So her father is essentially the most important and influential person in the city, but he's also extremely religious, and so is her mother. So the whole household runs on very fundamentalist Christian values. There's kind of timeline jumping, but if we are talking about the present, Ruth's life gets a little bit shaken when there is a body they found in the swamps. So they found a skull with blunt force trauma signs. So the conclusion they draw is that it's murder, and Ruth is worried that this will lead to a dark secret of hers coming out. In the past, we follow Ruth as a teenager, and she has a best friend called Everett, and Everett is kind of the black sheep of the town. He's known as the son of the devil because his father is considered to be a really despicable person, and everyone shuns him. And the two strike up an unlikely friendship. So the book is kind of pitched as a thriller, and I guess it is. It didn't feel like a thriller to me because it felt more than a thriller. It felt so viscerally uncomfortable. I was not even about solving the murder mystery at all. So it's kind of like a murder mystery thriller, but really it's about religious trauma and many other types of trauma. So let's talk about, I had an interesting time reading this book, and I honestly think everyone should. It's brilliant, but let me tell you why it's brilliant. So writing, as always, impeccable writing from Ashley Winstead. She's just a really good writer. She takes you in for a ride. It's very tense, it's very memorable. She does the super dramatic, climactic, over-the-top drama just so well. I always have fun, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife I found to be really campy and dramatic. I don't even know if by design or not, but this definitely wasn't that type of book, but still she held that tension really well, which is something that could have not been easy because the way we're finding out information was different than I expect. We learned kind of some of the secrets really early on, but I think she did a really good job embodying this character voice that's just this super, super God-fearing person, and someone's very meek and someone who has to find their own truth and power. So I think the writing was done really well. I felt the tension, I felt all the emotions, the chemistry was written very well. We can talk about that later, but it all conveyed, and it just flew, and it was really easy to read. While I was reading, I was addicted to reading it, but I didn't want to pick it up. Because when we talk about plot, is the fact that this book, it just feels a little too real. I feel like every character we meet, I think most characters that we meet are very much people that could exist in real life and do exist in real life, and it felt very scary. And there's a lot of topics that this book touches on that just make it super uncomfortable to be reading, because you don't want bad things to happen to the main character, and you don't want the main character to be miserable, and you don't want people in the town to suffer. But I felt like every time I turned a chapter, there was just gonna be something that's gonna be so upsetting. I just didn't want to pick up the book. So I liked everything that happened. I felt like I knew where it was going for a while, and I was pretty much wrong I didn't see the bigger plot. I didn't see forest for the trees, if that makes sense. So I was still surprised. I was gonna say in my review, oh, the book is quite predictable, but like otherwise it's really good. But actually, no, I didn't predict anything. I was just very naive and full of myself, and I was falling for all the red herrings. But I think it was all very cohesive, and it told a really compelling and really tight story. So I really enjoyed that. And again, I just feel like the themes in this book and what it's talking about are just so hauntingly real that I didn't find anything that happened to be particularly outrageous. The ending got a little dramatic, as it usually does, but up to that point I found it scarily accurate. So, characters. So we have Ruth, and I think her characterization was just done really, really, really well. I think I totally understood who Ruth was. There were many times where her inner thoughts or things she said or things that were told to her I've highlighted, which I don't do that much in my ebook, because I just felt like it was really poignant, and I was trying to talk about, you know, the power of womanhood and girls specifically, and I really like that, how Ruth at her core was kind of a teenage girl, even when she wasn't necessarily a teenager anymore, but we do follow her for a teenage portion of her life. Twilight plays a pretty big role in Ruth's understanding of the world, but I think the way it was presented just made 100% complete sense. And yeah, I found Ruth to be such a strong character, but all of her flaws were really understandable, and she was by no means perfect, but you understand at each point of the journey where she's coming from. And I think she's really shows what it is to be like to grow up under an extremely authoritative figure, and all of that was done really brilliantly. I think definitely my favorite part of the book is the relationship with Everett. So Everett is her best friend, and he's again the son of the devil, the shunned one, the black sheep of the community. And I think that he was maybe slightly over the top at some points, but seeing how Ruth saw him and seeing the chemistry between them, it was just chef's kiss, absolutely amazing. I was just like questioning, what is it with me and damaged and deranged boys in books and in media in general? Because there's something about like this damaged, will do anything, so in love boy that just gets me. I don't know, I love it. So Everett, I absolutely was horrified most of the time, but loved his character. I think he had layers, he was interesting. I don't think he had anywhere near as many layers as Ruth, but it is Ruth's story, and I think he was great at facilitating it. And again, the chemistry between the main characters was just so impeccable. Like, I did not want to stop reading those parts. I just waiting for more crumbs, but it's very, very slow burn, and you're working for it. So yeah, so Everett and Ruth, amazing characters. There's also a lot of antagonistic forces in the book. I don't want to get into maybe every single one of them, but I definitely thought that this was a really interesting crisscross of this society and this community, and people with beliefs like that, and with the conviction that these people have. Her father, a very interesting figure. I feel like, considering what a looming presence he was not even in the book that much, which was really interesting. But when he was there, I don't know, it almost felt like he was human after all, which is a weird thing to say, but I don't want to get into it too much to not spoil. But I think he was done well, and he was a very threatening presence throughout the whole book. Her mother, again, a very recognizable archetype. I didn't like her at all. I feel like we could have gotten maybe even more from her, but at the same time I recognized who she was and what she was meant to represent. Other people in the village, really an interesting, again, mishmash of different personalities. I loved her best friend that worked with her in the library. I think she was a great character, and overall like a really interesting tapestry of characters that make up this ultra religious small town. As for themes, I don't want to talk about it too much because the book explores them so deliciously and so in depth. But some things you can expect are definitely like religious trauma, bigotry, zealousness when it comes to like religion, that small town mindset, but then corruption, how power corrupts, growing up with abuse, physical, mental, and the biggest theme, and then also what again the author mentioned in her interview at the end of the book was stories we tell about ourselves. We tell ourselves about ourselves, and how that limits what we think we can achieve. And I think that was all like explored brilliantly. Honestly, like so many quotes I highlighted. If you're interested in the quotes, you can go to my Goodreads profile and see all the quotes. But I just think like, yeah, it was so amazingly done. And the conversation was so interesting, and it was about women and finding your own person. I just really like the part about teenage girls as well. And I loved how Twilight played into all of it. So I think the book was brilliant in one word. I think if you're ready for something to be slightly more painful, I feel like I look around the world and I'm like, the world sucks. So it was kind of difficult to read this book, because I was like, yeah, I don't want to be in pain. But it hurt so good, and I loved the ending. And at first I was pissed, but in hindsight, it's just the exact thing I like. I'm not even gonna say anything about that, but I think you should experience it on your own. But yeah, if you like ambiguous morality, actual anti-heroes, and actual morally dubious characters, this book really examines what it means to be just and moral, and what morality is. I would read the author's interview at the end, definitely very interesting. So yeah, like I had a great, I did not have a great time. I did have a great time, but I also had a terrible time. But I just think like I'm gonna think about this book a lot. And just like I think about the ending of In My Dreams I Hold a Knife a lot, which means I probably should get these books so I can have them on my shelf and proudly display them. But yeah, absolutely wonderful writer that I will read anything from. So if you have not picked up Midnight is the Darkest Hour yet, I would highly recommend it. I honestly think it might be Offer's best. Maybe not my favorite, because I loved In My Dreams I Hold a Knife so much. But I think like it, just seeing how the Offer is growing is really amazing and powerful. And yeah, 5 stars out of 5. And I would 100% recommend. So let me know, did you read Midnight is the Darkest Hours? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments. Let me know if my review enticed you to read it. Do you disagree? You agree? Let me know. But if you enjoyed the video, any good comment, like, and subscribe, I really, really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!